Hello and welcome, guys. We're going to be doing farming for Clash of Clans 101. Things that we need to know to be an effective farmer. Just some quick background of my base. I'm a Town Hall 9. Very recently a Town Hall 9. Bless you. And I was able to upgrade all my walls to 8 before I went to 9. And a lot of people are asking me how. I'm not crazy. I didn't spend 3, 4, 5 months doing my walls. Only spent an actual couple weeks of farming, and it's fairly simple how I actually did it. So, without going into too much detail right away, we'll start with the basics. The army composition that I use is, in my first barracks, I always use maxed out archers. Second barracks, archers. Third, goblins. Fourth, goblins. That's all I use. For spells, I use a combination of heal, rage. I kind of lean more towards healing than rage, and these are kind of backup things in case there's something extra juicy. We almost very rarely use spells. It's not required for this farming. This does work at every single level. I've done it since Town Hall 1 all the way to 9, and it served me well. So with that said, the main thing is knowing how to use it. As we know, this isn't a very strong army. We won't get virtually any 3 stars with this army. However, what we will get is virtually all of their resources. And there is a few simple ways that we can determine this before we even attack, which is key to actually having a successful farming session. So when I am sitting down and farming nonstop, I boost my barracks. It costs 40 gems, which sounds expensive, and it is. You can't do this constantly unless you got a lot of gems. What I'd recommend is only boost it if you can actually sit down for a solid 2 hours and do nothing but farming. Mind you, I often listen to podcasts, watch videos, movies, what have you. Something that takes roughly around 2 hours. Make sure your schedule's free. It is very important that you use these 2 hours effectively to get the most out of farming. So let's take a look at what bases we need to attack. Rank does play a role in this, the league rather. At different levels, it does change slightly. And for 9, I've been having great success at 3 gold. At 8, same thing. 3 gold, I was nailing the hammer on the nail. There you go. At lower levels, obviously that's a little different. At 6, 7, first silver is first, second, possibly third silver is very profitable and certainly worth your while. With all of this said, and let's say that you are at the correct spot, and we do want to hover around this spot, which, as I said before, the army composition that we'll be having is archers, goblins. We won't be getting a lot of 3 stars. We'll be relying on 50% or free town halls, like I have currently. What that's going to do is going to allow us to aggressively attack some bases that have very easy resources that we want, but we can't easily get a 50% or even a 1 star. So let's take a look at what bases we're going to be attacking. Mind you, this is for all levels. Just because I'm Town Hall 9 doesn't mean that this is the only setup that will work with this particular farming. You don't need to have 205 of these particular troops or anything like this. It will all adjust to level. So let's take a look at who we should attack. So this is a town hall that we can easily take out. What I do is I always put my archers up here in the corner. The reason I do that is because sometimes there will be a lot of Teslas or other defense structures that will be in range. Teslas are the big thing that we're trying to avoid here. If there's even a Tesla right here, right here, right here, right here, if you put an archer way back in this corner, it's not in range of him, and you can get this town hall virtually 99% of the time. Couple rare scenarios is if there's a mortar here and it's in range, you need to be a little bit careful, but that is very, very rare. This will get you, like I said, 99% of the time you'll get to town hall. So we can see that this guy has a lot of resources. However, immediately I can tell you that we can get 0 of it. The reason I know that is there's a few ways I know this. When I look at this elixir collector, I can tell, if you can see the wood on the bottom, like this, you know that this is empty. If you ever notice that these do fill up to show how much they actually are holding currently, this one's very empty. Same thing with gold. It's not this one we're looking at. This doesn't mean anything. It's this box, the wooden box to the side. If this is empty, we know for a fact that this has virtually 0 resources. So with a mixture of this one being empty, this one being empty, and a quick glance at all the other ones, they're all empty. Also, another giveaway is he doesn't have a lot of debris around his base. He doesn't have any shrubbery or anything, meaning he's a very active player. He's been clicking on his things on time, that nothing's been built up here. The same way that we can see that the elixir and the gold mines are empty, can't quite see that one, but we know it's empty. We can see that the storages are full. Well, not full, about halfway or so. You can see that it has still room to go. These ones are fairly empty, but they're not completely empty. We can tell that the dark elixir storage has a bit in there, but it's obviously not full. And we can tell that the drill has a little bit in there, mind you. Drills can't hold as much, and this goes by percentage. So this will artificially fill up faster than all the other resource collectors. But this is walled off, and if this was exposed and we had a free town hall, we could easily grab a couple dark elixir drills. Those are always a free one to look at. Okay, let's take a look at the next base here, that if we should or should not attack. Okay, so this base, you can tell that he hasn't played too recently because of these graves. However, that's kind of false. We can tell that this is very empty, and all of these are very empty, and we can tell that these are quite full. So we look at the resources, and we can tell that he's been playing. Also, we know for a fact, I'm just gonna do this just for demonstration purposes. We're gonna lose this one. We know that we can't get this. We just cannot get this with this army composition. Ignore the dragons. The dragons. These are not the dragons you're looking for. We cannot get to this, and we could maybe get a 50%. But more importantly, as much as you're farming, you need to not look for just trophies. We're not looking for trophies. We're looking for cold hard cash. We're looking for elixir, dark elixir, and gold. Now, obviously, that can depend on what you require at that time, but do keep in mind that you should be able to get all of these maxed with just a couple hours of farming. It's very doable. I've done it many times. You can max out your resources easily in the 2-hour boosted frame. So let's see if we can find a base that we should attack. Again, we see that these are empty, and that these appear empty, but mind you, he only has a very few resources. This is not enough to attack somebody for. Dark Elixir, yes, but it's all mostly in the storage. We're not looking for that. Same thing here. These are very empty, and that is not what we're looking for. As you can tell, there is a lot of actual skipping, something a lot of people are scared about for some reason. So these ones do have a little bit more, but the main thing that we need to look at also is how much they actually have. Anything less than 100,000 of one particular gold or elixir, depending on what you need at the time, is really, anything lower than that's not worth attacking. So generally when I'm flipping through these bases, the first thing I look at is this, and then I look at the town hall. I'm like, okay, town hall's out here. I could probably get to town hall. And then I look at, okay, he's got lots of resources. Where is that resources? It's all pretty close to the inside of his base. We're not looking for that type of base. We need to be fairly picky. So we can tell that this guy has a whole lot of elixir. And I'd be honest that sometimes I probably would attack this, but it would be purely if I had spells and I wanted to get to the center, because I can see that this is absolutely to the brim. There is some stuff in here, not too much, and well, we might as well at least get, since we're already getting trophies lost. Notice how I didn't just click an infinite amount of goblins. Yes, even the clan troops were here. There was a cannon. There's 2 mortars. Goblins, that's why we have them. Archers don't have enough damage per second to take that out before they die. I dropped, I don't know, maybe 10, maybe 10 or 11 goblins. I wasn't quite sure what I started with. And I could easily take out that Dark Elixir drill. The other reason I did that is because, obviously, I'm going to lose trophies regardless, because I'm not going to get to 50%. Nor am I going to get to the center. Not with this army. Ignore the dragons. So, we're just going to surrender.
People talking.
Okay. So, let's take a look at the next one. We can see that these are boosted, which is, in this case, of how much resources you have, is a very bad sign. Not only is he very active, but he's clearly spending all this money, because he doesn't have very much. Probably, very recently, he had lots of gold. But, too late. So sorry. He logged off for the night. This one has some very easy to get resources. However, again, not enough to even consider. This one has enough to consider, but not enough on the outside, so we ignore it. As you can tell, there is quite a trend of skipping. This one, skip, not enough resources. You do have to keep in mind that this is the most important thing. After that, it's position of the buildings, and keep a note of where the town hall is, for sure. So this one has easy resources, but just not enough. Just not enough. Now, you might say, you're skipping all these bases. You could get so much gold by now. Yes, however, you would miss the opportunity for a base like this. Now, this base, to the untrained eye, doesn't have absolutely... It's not brimming with resources on the outside. These ones are much fuller than these outer ones. This one's pretty full. So we know that a good portion of all the gold is here. However, don't don't completely ignore how much is in these combined. After we evaluate how much is out here, we can decide to attack. Ignore the dragons. We know that if we drop a guy here, he's going to get this for free. How did I know that? Well, I know the rough positions of range on particular buildings. I know that, you know, I'm not counting. I've been playing it long enough that I know the range of things just by looking at it. But I can tell you that this mortar is very close to be like around here. This wizard is about here. And this mortar is about here. So I know for a fact that if I drop my archer here, this is what I consider a free building. Now, free buildings are important as far as utilizing a very small number of troops. I can take out this entire building with a single archer. That is crazy cost efficient. Yes, at the same time we'll be losing trophies, and we're just gonna quick grab some of these. It's not gonna be an absolute killing, like I said. I do need to get rid of these dragons just for demonstration purposes, so let me eliminate these from the picture. I'll edit this out in post. Okay, so now that we saw a base to attack, we need to do a little bit of practicing. In the aspect of, and I will say this takes practice, knowing which ones that you can attack using the methods that we looked at. I mean, I can immediately look at this and I say, okay, this has 121,000 elixir and 42,000 gold. It's a little low, honestly. It's a little low. And then I look at where the resources is. Not worth my time. Not worth my time. I look here. Same sort of thing. It's got elixir. It's got pretty bad gold. Not worth my time. I look at this one. Really, the resources, not worth my time. Ah, ding, ding, ding. This one. This one is actually a pretty good one to attack. It's not the best in the world to attack. However, it's more than enough to consider attacking. I'm going to take this Dark Elixirs with my queen. Let's go ahead and grab that. Notice how I didn't absolutely just put down 1,000,000 trillion goblins. Depending on your level and the level of the mines, you might need to set up and down. Didn't quite get that one because of that Tesla. That's fine. We can easily just get that as a free building if we wanted to. In fact, he has quite a few free buildings. Not that one. Whenever something's up against the wall with an archer, it's never a free building. So we're just going to head and drop down a couple of these guys. When they destroy that, he's going to go to the mine there. If there's enough. There we go. So as you can tell, we didn't absolutely just flood this this base. I mean, obviously, I didn't have very many troops, so do keep this in mind with how profitable this is. Obviously, ideally, I would have boosted barracks. I would have at least 130 army supply. I don't absolutely have to have maxed out troops, army supply-wise. So that's not bad. That's not bad for what we spent. That's very, very little. So if I had this boosted, I'd roughly get about 4 times this number. So that would actually be more than enough to attack and get absolutely everything from that base that was even worth mentioning. So do keep that in mind, that boosting your barracks is pretty important. With this, there is 0 downtime with this farming method. That's a huge bonus, because when you boost for 2 hours, you don't want to be sitting around twiddling your thumbs, waiting for things to happen. Now, this is totally a demonstration video. I don't need to absolutely destroy bases to make it a point here. So this one, you're like, oh, this, I can see that these are full. I see that he has lots of resources. Put the brakes on. I can tell just by looking at these that these are low-level storages, which means they can hold very little compared to high-level collectors. I said storages, I meant collectors. And I can tell that there's just not a lot on the outside. That's just not a lot there. So this goes into another couple aspects of this. So as you can tell, every single base that I've attacked, I've lost trophies to. This one's an interesting base to attack, actually. I can tell that there is some death here. I'm not quite sure. Probably a Tesla. Let me... Nope. If I put 4 archers down, I know that that's enough to take that out eventually. Eventually. Let's go ahead and use our king. I want him to attack this and then head this way. What I'm going to do is I attack... Oh, he went right to there. Most of the time he'll attack this one. The reason I want that is I want him to actually go down, which he did. Let's go ahead and grab some of these. Not quite enough for that one. Let's go ahead and drop... Oh, I had a dragon. That's very helpful, obviously, with this particular farming setup. Well, that's not quite the damage I'm looking for that area. You can tell with a full army, this would be much more effective. I mean, I'm attacking with very, very few numbers here. And yet, at the same time, with the amount that I spent 19 archers, 16 goblins. That's it. That's all that I spent money on. But with that, obviously the dragon helped and the giant helped. I got 127,000 gold, 130,000 elixir, and 5 trophies. This is what I would consider the perfect farming. Spending very, very, very little. If I got 100% of all the loot, I'd probably have to spend about double everything here. Probably a little bit more, because I probably wouldn't use the clan troops if I had a full army. But I wouldn't use all my army. I'd use exactly what I needed. I'd try to get the trophy, because it was on the outside. That was easy. And get absolute as much as the resources that I could grab. Now I can tell that I've skipped several. I can tell that this one has a lot. This one has a lot. You know, this wasn't a perfect attack simply due to my number of troops. But given with what I attacked with, this is incredibly profitable. If you can boost your barracks and you can attack with 4 times this troops with 0 downtime at these particular bases, you will make millions of gold an hour. I get roughly about 2.5 million gold, 2.5 million elixir, sometimes more elixir than gold. almost always, I would say. And it depends if I'm trying for Dark Elixir. Most of the time I don't farm Dark Elixir, I just let it happen. But if I tried to farm Dark Elixir, I can get about 20,000 an hour. So, as you can tell, this is a very profitable, quick, and easy way to farm. So just that little time that we spent there, we have 42 troops. Times that by 4, we had more than enough troops by the time we came back to our base to attack at full strength. We'd easily attack. And this, right away, boom, easy one to get all the resources. The reason I'm using goblins here rather than my archers is because the archers would get distracted with this king. Obviously that wasn't enough troops to to do exactly what I wanted, but it's kind of making a point more than anything. You need to know when to use the goblins and when to use the archers. So archers obviously are good at finding things with range. So for example, this. If I put a goblin down, the goblin would have got killed virtually immediately. However, because I know the rough distances of buildings, I know that if I pop an archer in this particular area, that I can easily get this for literally nothing for one archer. Obviously, you don't necessarily want to sit here forever, so if you wanted, I mean, you can easily just boop, 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 speed it up. I mean, you are going to be boosted after all. There's no point just twiddling your thumbs. I know that this wizard is out of range of these archers. If you noticed, when I put an archer in this area, the cannon was in range. However, the few archers that I put over here were getting attacked by literally nothing. So you have to know the range of buildings, which you can easily tell by just clicking your own. And you should learn the rough ranges of them. Remember, wizards, stubby arms. They're like hobbitses. They can't reach very far. Mortars, long range. Long range. This is probably the #1 building that we need to look out for. Queens and kings, depending on your level, you might not have either of these, or you might have just one. Know that archers will attack the king or queen over going for the resources. They will stop attacking resources and attack them. So I'd recommend, if there is a king nearby or a queen, use goblins to quick clean it up. They'll ignore the king and queen. Okay, let's take a look at one quick more here. We're gonna go a little bit fast so we can get the hang of what it would look like going normal speed. Because normally I don't just sit here explaining everything. I can easily just glance at these. I'm really scanning the whole base. I'm determining if I should attack the town hall. I shouldn't attack that one that has a king there. That's not worth my time. Should I attack this one? This bunch of death trophies kind of suggest no. I'm not looking for a fight in particular. This one has lots of resources. I would attack this one. However, with the troops, I'm not really looking for this. This would be an okay one to attack for trophies, not for resources. However, it's going to put up a little bit more of a fight than I'm capable of handling currently. I'm not going to bother. Mind you, trophies. If you get just the town hall, you get 1/3 of what it says you will win. So if you win, for example, this one. Let's go ahead and drop all of these. If you win this one, you're going to get 1/3 of 13, which I don't know what it is. That's math. I should have saved an archer, because this would have been a free building right here actually. But if I drop that enough, plenty of little goblins. This would be a great one to attack with the full army. Archers are great about shooting over the walls. So this area, I'd take out this army camp, and then I would I'd probably take out this barracks too, and then, because these are free buildings, I don't have to worry about them getting shot. Once I get that, I would get a nice surround, so I would get all of these around on these outer wall. Same thing on this side, except they're even easier. I just use goblins on this side and utilize my archers where the wall, where they have to shoot over. I would even probably destroy this dark barracks, destroy this workers hut, destroy this dark barracks, and then pop a couple archers right in this area, so they're going to attack this dark elixir drill. So you just kind of need to know when to attack, who to attack, and how to attack. With that resources, mind you, this was only 12 archers and 8 goblins. I got four trophies, 32,000 elixir, and 32,000 gold. If you could do that for every single 12 archers and 8 goblins, you can kind of understand now how I'm getting millions and millions and millions of resources an hour. With boosted, with this strategy, you'll be rolling in the dough. Or rolling in the level 8 walls, which kind of comes back to why we started this. The number one thing that people don't upgrade is walls, because yes, they are incredibly expensive. However, with this farming method, I truly believe that it is very doable in a very short amount of time, rather than a crazy, ludicrous amount of time that it initially appears to be. So thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. Bye.